right, guys, welcome in to the first episode of a series that I'm going to be doing to preview the 2024 Auburn football season. We are 64 days away from kickoff, and Jason Campbell has been kind enough to join me. What's up? How are you doing today?
Hey, Taylor, I'm doing good. It's been some hot weather this summer, so we finally got some rain here
I
in my
know.
area, so I'm excited about that.
Same with here. It's been brutal.
Yeah.
And we're going to start off with a question from Aaron in Atlanta, and it's going to give you a chance to tell us a little bit about your time in Auburn. He asked, at what point in the 2004 season did you know this Auburn team was going to be special? Did you know from the beginning, or was there a game or moment during the season that made you feel this way?
A great question. There's always that one moment during a year that kind of defines the season. And I think for us, it was the LSU game. They was the defending national champs. We knew in order for us to win the SEC West and compete for a championship, we had to beat them first. And that was a surreal week because it was Hurricane Ivan. So we didn't even know we was going to play the game until like Wednesday afternoon or Thursday. School was out. Everyone was going home except for the football team. We was all put up in a hotel together, and it's kind of the week that we end up gelling together because you're locked up in a hotel room. You can't go out and practice, but you're doing walkthroughs. You're doing a lot of mental stuff, the aspects of the game. And I think it made us be better students of the game, but also understand each other as teammates. And once we won that game, it felt like we feel like we can win all of them.
You could win them all. So I sent out a tweet a few weeks ago asking Auburn fans who they were most excited to see play in an Auburn uniform this upcoming season. And this probably won't come as a surprise to many, but a lot of people mentioned the Freeze Four.
Yeah.
Cam Coleman, Thompson, Malcom Simmons, Bryce Cain. At least one of their names were mentioned in the majority of the responses. Mm-hmm. From a quarterback perspective, what would excite you about having these guys be a part of your offense?
Oh, man, if anybody's watched Auburn's football the last couple of years, we just haven't had the big-time playmakers that these guys have. And, we've had some solid guys, but there's a difference between, playmakers that can, make a play on the ball it doesn't matter where it's thrown to, that they can go and get it. And these four guys are those type of athletes, and that's that type of receiver core. I was fortunate enough to probably play with the last four group of guys as a whole, being Omamanu, Devin Romashdu, Anthony Mitz, and Courtney Taylor back during my era. So these guys kind of remind me of those four guys, that they can feed off each other, that they can continue to get better. They're coming in highly touted freshmen, but at the same time, they got room to grow. But it's a lot to be excited about when it comes to these four guys. These four guys are I wouldn't be surprised if all four of them tried it on the field together at some point during the season in a 2x2 set.
That's one thing that I think is potentially a concern for some, is that they are freshmen. The vet of the room will be the Penn State transfer. And how hard of an adjustment is it coming in as a freshman, transitioning from high school football to college football? And obviously Cam Coleman was there early, so that will be, of the benefit to him. But do you think they'll be able to adjust to the game quickly? And could one of these four potentially be Auburn's first 1,000-yard receiver since 1999?
It's been a long time since we had a 1,000-yard receiver. I would say this, most of the time, because it's a receiver by committee, you spread the ball around so much. It's not like the NFL where everyone say, okay, this is your number one receiver. We're going to target him, 12 times a game in that situation. But I do think with the talent that we brought in, it'll be hard for us still to get a 1,000-yard receiver just because, Cam Coleman is as great athlete, can make plays. But then you got Thompson, who can make great plays and is great as well. Then Malcom Simmons is probably the best athlete right now. This guy here is just a freak of nature. And then you think about Bryce Cain, who's fast and can do the slot. So, but then you talk about Lambert Smith and you talk about Robert Lewis, the transfer from Georgia State, who's another veteran receiver. So you got two veteran receivers in the room that's played a lot of college football. And then you got a lot of young receivers coming in that haven't played a down yet. And so I like the mixture of mixing two older guys with a lot of these younger guys. But these young guys are going to have to play a lot. So they're going to have to grow up really fast this year. And I do think in one of these 3 to 4 years that we will have a 1,000-yard receiver, just based off the type of system that Coach Freeze runs. It is a offensive quarterback friendly receiver type system. So I wouldn't be shocked if we did end up with one next 3-4 years, but they got a lot of weapons to work with. So it's gonna be an exciting.
They definitely have some options. And along with the notable receivers you mentioned that you got to play with earlier, you also had some very talented running backs.
All right.
And Chandler from Hoover asked, if you had to start an NFL franchise in 2004 and draft a running back, you have 1A Cadillac Williams and 1B Ronnie Brown on your draft board. Who do you pick and why?
Wow, man, he tried to put me on the spot, man. That's
He said he said I got a tough question for Jason.
That's a tough one. Both of those guys, I'm Ronnie's, he's the godfather of my kids. I'm the same for him. And then we was college roommates. And then on top of that, Cadillac is one of my close friends and everything. So I would just say it's hard. You couldn't go wrong with either one. It's kind of like when those guys got drafted in the pros, right? Ronnie didn't even start and Cadillac started, but Ronnie got drafted first, and Cadillac got drafted to Tampa at number 5. But I would just say both of them had different dynamics. Cadillac was one of the best running backs I've seen that can jump from A to B in the middle of running the football. Just jump cuts is what I'm talking about. He had a great vision. His vision was always really good. The one thing about Ronnie was more of a dual threat type of guy. He can hit you down low, run through you, but at the same time, he has such sweet feet, we call him, because he was just very elusive and he can catch the ball as good as any receiver. And people got a chance to see that when we played for the Dolphins because he was the first guy to start the Wildcat and everything when they opened it up against the Patriots back in the day. So I can't say which one because I don't want to get in trouble because I like both of them. But if I would just say if I'm him, just flip a coin and you won't be wrong.
Moving on to quarterback, Hugh Freeze has been pretty straightforward in saying that Payton Thorne is his guy for this season. And he has brought in a lot of talent that he didn't have around him last season. So I'm expecting to see an improved version of Payton this season. But do you think that he will be, or expect, I guess is a better way to put it, him to start all 12 games? And why should Auburn fans be more confident in Payton Thorne this season?
Well, one, he's a year older in the system. Last year, he didn't go through spring ball. So I would say, from that standpoint, he missed all of spring in 2023. So he got here in June and everything was a rush. As soon as he got here, he was trying to rush to get to learn his teammates, rush to learn the offense. And he pretty much was learning on the go, during the season, the first time in the system. So it's not like he had spring practices to go through. So I would think just from that aspect of it, that makes him a year better. I know he didn't have a good bowl game. And a lot of people are still, talking about the bowl game because that's the last thing that they saw. So I think, but going into this offseason, this whole offense has been revamped. You got Percy Lewis, a transfer from Mississippi State, come over as the left tackle. You moved Dylan Wade, that was at left tackle, to now left guard. And then your offensive line is a year older with Too Tall Miller at right tackle. So, Jeremiah Wright, right guard, and then your center and everything. So, we have an experienced offensive line that's going to be really, really good. You have a strong run game behind him in Jarquez and Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobb. That's going to run the football really well. The tight ends are really good. Luke Deal, Rivaldo Fairweather. Like I said, we just talked about the receiving core. So he has all the ingredients that he needs around him to make him have a successful year. And the thing for Payton is he doesn't have to trot on the field and try to win the games. He just got to go out there and play his game and, not turn the ball over a lot, keep us in good situations where we're not putting our defense backs against the wall, but allow his playmakers to make plays, play loose, let it go. Last year, I think he shocked a lot of people with the way he can run. And I think this year you add his running dimension along with the playmakers that they're putting out there around him. I think it's automatically going to make him better just because of the people that he's playing with. But I think it's going to come down to Payton within himself, his confidence level. And I think he needs a big win early in the season that's going to help him for the rest of the year.
So one thing that stood out to me about Hugh Freeze on the recruiting trail is he has focused on the high school players still. A lot of people are utilizing the transfer portal, which is great, but I like the way that he's still building the relationships with these high school kids. And I was listening to you and Taylor Davis talk to Eugene Asante a few days ago.
Mhm.
And one of the things that stood out to me that he said was that he feels like everyone in the locker room is bought into what Hugh Freeze and the staff are trying to build. And do you think that the way that he's recruiting, he's a very relational guy. Do you think that plays a part in building a positive locker room culture? And that's, ultimately the reason why Eugene said what he said.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Like I say, you're gonna get transfer guys come in here, and sometimes, like you say, yes, NIL plays a big part of it when it comes to transfer guys. But when it comes mostly to high school guys, um, because transfer has to happen quickly, right? So when a guy goes in the portal, you only got a matter of a week or two to get him on campus and show him visits, and it's hard to build a relationship that fast, So a lot of it comes down to, hey, what is the NIL is going to look like? What is his opportunities on the football field is going to look like? When it comes to high school kids, now you have more room to grow because you can start recruiting a kid as a freshman. And you can start growing a relationship with him for 3 to 4 years. And by the time he's a senior, this is a relationship that's either going to be a great match or it's going to be a relationship that's ran its course. And I think for most of it is, I think he's done a really good job, and his staff is reaching the Auburn type of guys, trying to find like what personality, what character, fits Auburn. There's a lot of great athletes out there that you can bring in, but as well as it doesn't mean it's going to fit your culture, what you're trying to build. So getting the right type of guys is super, super important. And I think him and his staff has been hitting it right on the head as far as like getting the right type of guys, the parents, the character, the kids, as well as, understanding what it's going to take to win. Every recruit, we're right there in it with Bama, Georgia, LSU, Tennessee, USC, all of them. Like every top recruit, Auburn is in the mix. And that's when we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, getting out there and reaching the right type of recruit. So that's how you're going to win. If you want to win and compete for a national championship, coaches can coach, but at the end of the day, you better have great players.
And I feel like that's a more sustainable way of recruiting as well, because, at some point the pot's going to run dry, money doesn't grow on trees. So the relationships, I think, will down the road become more important than they even are.
All right.
But with that being said, this is one of the hardest things for me to do, but a ceiling and floor for the season. One thing that I have had to remind myself is you cannot have unrealistic expectations. When Hugh Freeze came in and took over, he wasn't handed a program on a silver platter. He had a rebuilding to do, and that's going to take time. Mm-hmm. But what do you think a realistic expectation for this season looks like?
Yeah, I tell you what, back in the day, it would have, in the situation he came into, you just have to say, man, you got to give him 4 years, right? Back in the day, because you got to build so much through your recruiting class. And you got to get the kids experience, where nowadays you can speed the process up because of transfer portal. So transfer portal trying to move things up 2-3 years, right? So last year was kind of like a toss-up year as far as like, okay, Coach Freeze came in December. It was a rush job to hurry up and sign a recruiting class that was ranked like number 70 before he got the job, and ended up finishing like number 12. So that was, a really good job and a quick turnaround. And then all of a sudden, boom, you go through spring ball, and you're trying to hire staff, and then so the first year is all about observation. And I think once you get through your first year of observation, now you realize like, okay, how do you want to operate your program? Now you had a chance to learn different people. You had a chance to learn like, okay, my players, what are our needs now? And I think he's found out like, okay, you have to know what positions to go out and get. That's a sudden need. And then where your high school guys are still your primary focus, because those are the guys you want to stick here for 3 to 4 years. But how do we mix in the right type of transfer guys to propel your program, where I may not have time for this high school guy to get a year of experience or 2 years of experience. We got to have immediate help in this position now. And I think with that being said, I think you go out, you got an Isaiah Race, you got Philip Bleedy, you got, some guys at D-line where you lost Marcus Harris and you lost Justin Rogers, and you find replacements for those guys immediately because they were both veteran guys on the defensive front. And then you talk about on the outside this year, Jalen McLeod, going to expect a lot from him. It's his second go around now being here when you talk about it as a whole. But I'll just say this, though. I think the realistic expectation is for this football team to be in the playoff hunt. I really think we have enough talent, but, talent only gets you so far. I think it's about how fast can this team gel together and how quick. And, Payton Thorne is going to be a big part of how far we go as well. How far has he grown in the offense to be able to make adjustments in the game and everything, because now he has a little bit of more of experience in the same system for 2 years in a row. And I just think from a standpoint of, we do have young receivers. How quickly will these young receivers, step up? Cam Coleman is the guy he's probably already better than half the receivers in the SEC, just because his pure talent. Pierre Thompson's up there as well. But you bring a guy like Lambert Smith, who was 600 yards receiving last year at Penn State. We expect him probably to be the leader, though, right? The leader of that group, because he's going to be dependent on a lot, especially in those 3rd and 5 situations. 3rd and 3, got to have it. Who's your go-to guy until the younger guys come along? And so I would say there's 12 spots in the playoffs this year. I hope Auburn gives themselves an opportunity to be one of the 12.
That Oklahoma game is one that I think becomes very important on the calendar this season.
Oklahoma is huge. It's a big early game for us. That's a game I think that Auburn can win and Payton can play really good. I think it sets the bar for the rest of the season. Like, yes, we have tough games, Taylor. You think about it, we got to go on the road to Georgia. It's always tough. You got to go on the road, right? So you got to go to
Homecoming.
Right. You got to go to Georgia. You got to go to Bama. How do you win in both of those places? You got to find a way to win. Got to go to Kentucky. My 2 games this year that I would put question marks beside for Auburn, that's going to be like, everyone expects the Alabama and Georgia games to be tough on the road. But Kentucky is another tough game on the road. Missouri is another tough game on the road. 2 well-coached football teams in the SEC. And I think those 2 games are the 2 games I think that Auburn can win, can be the games that put us in the playoffs.
I agree, because those 3, I think the Auburn or the Alabama and Georgia are the ones that I'm probably least confident in. I would love to go into Bryant-Denny Stadium and watch an upset happen, but I agree that Kentucky and Missouri are 2. That one, and then the Oklahoma game will probably set the stage for the rest of the season, how fans will be feeling afterwards. But talking about culture again, Hunter from Birmingham asked what you've noticed about the culture shift from when Coach Freeze got to Auburn to today.
Oh, winning attitude. I think those 2 to 3 years at Auburn it was just rough watching. I think kind of develop a mindset and an attitude where you had maybe some players in the locker room that didn't care as much about winning, or you didn't have enough of that, enough guys wanting to win. You had a lot of guys coming here, maybe just trying to get a payday or something, or coming here trying to, just say they played in the SEC. But, it's about getting guys here that wants to win. And I think now the mindset has shifted. I don't think you will see the New Mexico State happen again. I think that's gone. I think, and you got enough guys, I think, from a character standpoint in leadership positions that demands more from their teammates. And I think it's a respect thing for one another. So I think you have to, flood the locker room and get rid of those type of mindsets and attitudes. And you have to bring in, and it's like Eugene said on our podcast the other day, you got to buy in at some point. And it's not that a coach has to oversell. They just need to see in what you're selling them to believe it. And I think now with this staff that, I think they have set the standard and said, hey, this is what we're going to do. And bringing in Coach Durkin, I think, was huge. I think bringing in Coach Charles Kelly was huge. A guy that's played at Auburn, but he's been working with our arch rivals for years, helping them win championships. No, we need him here helping us win championships. And I think getting him was a huge, huge piece in Coach Durkin on the defensive front. Getting Coach Derek Nix. Derek Nix is someone that's been known in the SEC for a long time. He coached at Ole Miss for years. He played the running back position at Southern Miss out of high school. His story, You know, a lot of people don't know about his bounce back story from things he's gone through personally, his kidneys and different things. So, you know, he's a guy he's not about X's and O's. You know, he's about, you know, making sure you're doing the right things all the time and making sure that you're, you know, take the little things serious. I think the last couple of years, we just kind of let the little things kind of go to the side, except for the time when Cadillac took the interim job. And he went back to saying, hey, no, we got to focus on the little things and do all the little things, the things that we were taught when we was playing. And you saw different results and everything. So I think, you know, that's the same thing Coach Nix is doing now, is saying, hey, you guys like to put the little things on the shelf, but it's the little things that get you beat in the fourth quarter. It's the little things that get you beat on third down. It's the, you know, the little things that you miss a block here, it's a sack hit on the quarterback. You know, those type of things that you don't take serious because you get caught into all the accolades, you get caught into all the stats. He's rebuilding this thing to focus on the little things, and he's all about competition. He said, we're not handing out free starting jobs, you know, so you can compete for your job and you compete for playing time. And I think that's what makes a football team go. And I think him bringing that mentality from an offensive coordinator standpoint is going to be really good for this team.
To wrap things up, my eyes are now set on Big Cat Weekend. Obviously, last year was a big one with the Perry Thompson flip. What are you expecting from, I guess it's probably about a month out now, a little over a month out now?
Yeah, Big Cat Weekend is always a huge weekend for Auburn. You know, it's something that's going on now for a couple of years. It's where all your top talent come in, and some of them come in committed to other schools. And this is kind of like your chance and opportunity to make a splash, like last year with Perry Thompson jumping off in the pool and committing to Auburn. And look what it did for recruiting. It turned everything. And you know, who's going to be that guy this year? And that's going to make a big splash on Big Cat Weekend. But it's a lot of times for your big guys to get together and say, hey, you know what? I want to come to Auburn and put it back in championship mode. You know, like, let's do it together. So it's a chance for guys to say they want to come do something special together, turn this program back around, get it back to a top 10 program like it's known each and every year in football, and get us back to our winning ways, because that's what's going to bring more recruits. You know, right now it's a lot of pressure on everybody that's involved in recruiting to get the guys here to believe in what we're trying to tell them that they haven't seen yet, because we haven't won the last 3 years. But we start back winning. This is an easy place to sell. The crowd is an easy place. The stadium is electric. You know, the atmosphere is electric. The campus sits in the prettiest plains in the easiest spot to get to off of 85. You know, it sits in a nice area. The city is in a nice place. So it's an easy place to sell. It's just, we got to start back winning. And that's the key. So I think winning this year would bring more top 5 signing classes here in the near future.
So one last thing, and I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. What everyone's been talking about is JuJu Lewis. We have Walker White, who was a 4-star out of high school, and he'll be competing along with, you know, a couple other guys that are in the quarterback room. But what's your opinion on this JuJu Lewis situation?
Well, you know, recruiting is always recruiting, right? So, you know, especially nowadays in the transfer portal, like, you never know who's staying and who's leaving. So, you know, you're always trying to make your roster as strong as it can possibly be. And you're always one play away from that guy, whoever started. Your next guy better be a player, you know, so you don't want your team to have to go through a season where everything's all lined up. But then if your quarterback goes down and you can't plug someone in there that can still get you to a national championship, then, you know, that's a tough spot to be in, especially when, you know, you got all the other positions. So I just feel like, you know, recruiting JuJu, recruiting any high school quarterback each and every year is just going to be a thing for every college program. You know, you think about it, because every college program better have at least 2, if not 3 guys that you can play. And like I said, and it's competition every year. It's only, so I got to tell everybody, there's only so many starting quarterback positions. You know, in the NFL, there's 32 starting quarterback positions. And that's not a large number, you know, so it's 32 guys in the world that have a starting NFL job. And when I look back now, my days when I played in the NFL, and say, dang, I was one of the 32 for, you know, 7 of my 10 years. as a starting quarterback, like that's a tremendous honor. So you think about even in college in the SEC, it's about to be all these teams, and you're trying to figure out if you're one of the starting quarterbacks at one of these schools. So so you have to expect every year. If you're a Walker White, you have to expect Auburn to recruit top quarterbacks every year. If look at Bama, they've been recruiting top quarterbacks every year. Texas every year. USC every year. So you can't recruit a guy. Say, oh, we got a guy, so let's not recruit anymore. No, you got to create a competition because you don't know if high school is going to translate to college. So in order for that to happen, you got to get guys in there. They got to compete. And you got to see if they develop into a great quarterback in college.
All right. Well, that is going to do it. Thank you again for taking the time to share your thoughts, give us a little insight. And before we go, tell the Auburn fans, tell the people where they can find your podcast and listen to what you have to say frequently.
Yeah, so everybody, tune in to Believe in Auburn podcast, Everything Auburn podcast. That's BLEAV. Taylor Davis, who went to Auburn, now works for ESPN, covers college football. We do it together each week. During the summertime, we may miss a week of here traveling, but she does an exceptional job. And I try to bring you all the insights as well from the games. And we talk other sports as well, but we talk a lot of things, but majority of it is about Auburn and Auburn football. So follow us during the season. Subscribe so you can get the update each and every week. You can find me on Instagram, jcampbell17. You can find me on Twitter, jcam_17. And look forward to having a great season this year. But we'll be bringing some of the players on our podcast, during the season as well. Eugene Asante just left. He did one. And not too long ago, we had TJ Lindsey, one of our top freshmen as well. And everything. So we've got some guys that's been on our podcast. They want to go back and check out some of the interviews of guys. Jeremiah Cobb is another one. So, looking forward to this fall.
Awesome. Well, like Jason said, you can follow him on Twitter at @J_Cam. And he just told you how he can find his podcast. But thank you again. And we are 64 days away from college football.
Be here before you know it.